Okay. So before this starts, this video contains sensitive topics that may trigger certain people. If you are sensitive to rape, murder, dismemberment, kidnapping, probably Hello Kitty. Wait, I shouldn't include this. This is supposed to be serious. In case you are sensitive to the story and you still haven't clicked off, here's a preview of what the story is about. The Hello Kitty murderer was a 1999 case in which a nightclub hostess was abducted and tortured in an apartment in Hong Kong. On the 17th of March, Fan Man Yi was kidnapped and tortured by 3 men before dying a month later. This entire story is real and pictures of the killers and victims will be shown. If you do not wish to watch, click off now. Okay, so for starters, I want you to picture your favorite stuffed animal or a stuffed animal you remember from childhood. Now think of its head. What do you think would be inside of it? Fluff, cotton, maybe some dust. What if one day you're chilling, maybe sitting down and you find a stuffed animal? You find out inside is not only fluff and cotton, but also a real human head that has been decomposing there after being tortured for a month. So how this entire case started, or how it was figured out, was from a 14-year-old girl. Her name is classified, so we'll call her Janet. If that's your name, I am sorry. So Janet made a call to the police, but this was a really strange call. She claimed that she was being haunted by a person that had been tortured to death. The police found this super strange and felt as if she was just reading or watching too many horror stories. She said she really needed them to go to her apartment, so the police went just in case she was going through some sort of parental neglect. They went to her apartment and there was no signs of anything suspicious, and the police began to search for a logical reason for this so-called ghost haunting her. So they asked her why she said she was being haunted. And this 14-year-old girl says the most insane thing ever. She says, she's haunting me because I actually helped murder her. She says she helped torture her and she's the one that found her dead. She claimed that it was fun until she ended up dying. Of course, the police found this super strange, so they kept looking around. And after some searching, they found a Hello Kitty doll. A Hello Kitty mermaid, which was almost the same size as Janet. The police also noticed how Janet kept on staring at the door, and so they opened it, not expecting anything out of the ordinary to come out. But to their surprise, out comes a decapitated head, missing the lower jaw. Now, it didn't fully cartoon plop. In fact, the head was actually sewed in, so it wouldn't wobble. So then the police began to interrogate the little girl and they asked her if she knew who this head belonged to. She responded rather vaguely with a yes and no. She said that her boyfriend was closer to her than she was, and the owner of the head, that sounds really weird, was the hostess of a nightclub. And her name is Fan Man Yi and was 23 years old at the time. So here's a little backstory of Fan's childhood. When Fan Man Yi was younger, she was abandoned by her family and she was sent to an orphanage that was overrun by many other children. The organization was poorly made and she did not get much communication or help as a child growing up. People say due to this environment she grew up with, that when she became a teenager, she started developing a massive drug addiction. She was doing crystal methamphetamine. I'm not gonna try. She was doing crystal meth, which is
crystal methamphetamine,
and which is also known as ice. With her upbringing, she had a lot of emotional trauma. She felt as if crystal meth was the only way to help with her issues. To afford her addiction, she takes up prostitution. When she was around, 20 years old, she met this man. Fan found happiness in this person, sort of like her knight in shining armor. They later got married and had a child. She gave birth to a little boy. Once she found out she was pregnant, she began to stop doing meth to help the child and to turn her own life around. Now, this does not end here if you thought it did, which you probably didn't because there's still a lot of video left. Well, it seems like her happy fairy tale ends up to become a living nightmare. So much like Fan before, her husband is also a drug addict and did not want to change his ways. He did drugs around the child and also had abused his wife. She took her son and left, along with divorcing her husband too. To support her child, she managed to get a waitressing job at a nightclub at the age of 23. The lucky number 23. She worked at this hostessing job and was also a part-time prostitute, and met this man named Chan Man Lak, which I would be referring to as Chan. He was a 34-year-old drug dealer, and he started conversing with Fan. They found they had a lot in common. She was part-time prostitute, he is a pimp, she was a drug abuser, and he is a drug dealer. With Fan being a recovering addict, which if you don't know, when recovering addicts face some difficult times, they tend to think of the one thing that made them feel happy or forget their issues, which majority of the time are drugs. He said things like, it's only one dose. And with this, they began to create I don't know if I'd say it's a friendship, maybe more of a resemblance to a fraudulent artifice than a friendship, but from Fan's view, it probably would have been considered more of a friendship. Now, if it wasn't stated already, Chan was a really weird man. Yo, wait, that actually flows really good. Okay, moving on. This man lives in a 5-bedroom apartment, which is like, whoa, rich man. Now, instead of decorating his house like a regular house, he decides to fill his apartment with Hello Kitty. Like, Hello Kitty thing, the entire thing. He had his bed sheets, curtains, towels, his silverware, all have Hello Kitty. And he also kept various Hello Kitty dolls of all sorts. So he does not have an obsession with Hello Kitty, but rather an obsession with young girls. Okay. He would often invite a lot of young girls over to his apartment, and he decorated his apartment with Hello Kitty to have it appeal to underage girls. Janet, the 14-year-old girl that had reported the dead body, was one of this man's many girlfriends at the time, which is a 14-year-old girl dating a 34-year-old. Moving back onto Fawn, due to Chan, her drug addiction was brought back, and she spent majority of her time in prostitution and less time at her hostessing job. So one day, when she was hanging out with Chan and 2 other people, those 2 other people were kind of like Chan's accomplices, kind of like henchmen, like in a group he was in. It's kind of like a triad thing. So Fan really needed money, right? And she knows that Chan has a lot of money. So in a drug-dosed state, she decides to steal Chan's wallet. And inside the wallet was around 4,000 USD. She realized that she had just stole someone's money. She didn't spend the money, but instead she went to prostitution. She did this so she could pay him back. Not literally pay him back, like just give the money back, but she felt the need to return it with interest. An interest of 10k. An interest is the amount of money a lender or financial institution receives for lending out money. So after she saved up enough, which is 14k, she went to his house, apologized, and gave him the money. He looks at her and says, I don't think that's enough. You betrayed our friendship. Greedy ass. And he wanted an extra 6k. But this time, she has a deadline. So instead of paying bills and providing for her son, she goes to work for his money. She couldn't make that much money within the short period of time she was given, and Chan got angry. So he said to his accomplices, if she does not bring me the money by the end of today, go to her workplace and kidnap her. So Fan was kidnapped and was sent to Chan's 5-bedroom apartment. She apologized for not being able to make that money back, but they refused her apology and were going to use her to make the 6k back through prostitution. Before they executed this plan, they decided to take some doses of meth. Obviously not the smartest idea, but they're not the smartest people in the world, so yeah. Now, of course, meth is not good at all, and do not do meth or any sort of drugs, because when these 3 men were under the influence of drugs, they began to think, what if we beat her up? All of them found it was fun and began to do so. She became severely injured, and the first thought that these sick men had were, we can't send her into prostitution with all these bruises. No one will pay to have sex with an injured woman. So they just kept her there to torture her. So for the next 30 days, they raped her. Okay, so just pause for a second. If you do not want to listen to how she was tortured, skip to this timestamp. I'll put it on the screen. Yeah, okay, it's kind of, yeah, okay. I'm only gonna go over one of these procedures. So what they did to her was, they burned her. But not with fire, surprisingly, but rather with plastic straws. So you know those bubble tea straws, right? They would melt them, and then they would put it on her skin. And then once the plastic cooled down / dried, they peeled it off. And not only that, They rubbed chili oil inside of her wounds. Then they also put chili oil in her eyes if they felt that it wasn't enough. Now comes the 14-year-old girl. She was often in the apartment owned by Chan and was mentally manipulated and groomed by Chan, and was also a part of the prostitution. One time, she walked in and saw Chan kicking Fan's head. So she decides that she will go over there and smack her head as well. She was mentally manipulated into this, and when the court asked her why she did that, she deadass stared into his eyes and said, "I don't know. It looked fun." The judges said that she did not do this out of her own will, but rather because she was heavily influenced by Chan and would follow anything he did and find a reason for it. One day, Janet woke up from her nap and went to Fan, to find her still and cold. She called the 3 men over and they tried to convince her this is normal. Janet finally realized what she had been partaking in. And so, to try and convince Janet that this is all normal, Chan said to her, "She's dead, but it's not your fault, nor my fault. In fact, I actually saw her take a large dose of meth beforehand. She had overdosed on drugs." A bit later, there was a mob of police a few floors down from their apartment. The police were searching for a rape charge, which was completely unrelated from Fan. These men were super paranoid and obviously didn't want to get caught, so they tried to dispose of her body. So Chan told his 2 accomplices to grab a saw, take it to the bathtub, and dismember her, which took over 10 hours for them to do. So they started thinking about what to do with the body. So they sat in the kitchen thinking. And so genius Chan came up with the idea of putting her body parts in a stock pot, a pot used for soup. And they boiled her to stop the decomposition, and any parts they couldn't remove, which is like the organs and stuff, they stored in their fridge. The next 4 days was spent cooking their body and storing various parts of her body in the fridge. One of them even took her teeth as a trophy. They didn't want deliveries because they were paranoid of being figured out. So they cooked noodles in a separate pan, but they used the same spoon that was used for mixing Fan's body. At the end of this, all that was left... I hit my mic again. I am sorry, Mike. I love you. At the end of this, all that was left was her head. Now, everything is coming full circle. They couldn't throw her head away, so they boiled it as much as they could so the smell wouldn't bother them. Wow, how nice. And so they sewed the head into a Hello Kitty mermaid. I don't know the thought process they were going through, but they did persuade Janet to take the Hello Kitty home. And this is when the paranormal stuff happened. She saw Fan everywhere, in her dreams, when she walked around in Hong Kong, and etc. Every single day in court, the 3 men were in denial. They said it wasn't murder, even though they prevented a lawful burial, which was taking away the right from them to be buried lawfully, because they destroyed the body. They kidnapped her, tortured her, and killed her. But they had the audacity to deny that it was murder. The jury said they believed they did not want her to die, which is so dumb because that just means that they want to keep her longer to torture instead of straight up killing her. It's worse to just be tortured instead of straight up killed. The jury had one damn job to decide whether her death was intentional, and they just couldn't say that it was because of legal loopholes. They were convicted of manslaughter, not murder. So the difference between murder and manslaughter is murder is homicide with the intent to kill without forethought, and manslaughter can be defined as homicide without the intent to kill. This is what they mean by legal loopholes, because they did not intend to kill her, so it wasn't murder. In December 2000, 34-year-old Chan Man-lok, or Chen Wen-le, 27-year-old Liang Xin-chou, or Liang Shenzu, 24-year-old Liang Wei-lun. They were sentenced to life in jail, but they were given a chance of parole in 20 years, which is 2020. I couldn't find if they actually managed to get out or not. I'm not 100% sure, because I couldn't find any information on it. Okay, but put everything aside, think about Fan's child, her little baby boy, growing up knowing that his mother has gone through all of this pain. Just the amount of trauma he has gone through must be heartbreaking. I don't know how his well-being is right now, but I guess we'll just hope for the best. Fan's ex-husband, I don't know how to say his name, so I'll put it up on screen. said he was satisfied with the penalty that those 3 men got. One of the things he says is, "But how can I ever forget?" Okay, too sad now. 2 movies were based off of this story, with pretty gruesome names. I wouldn't recommend watching it. I haven't watched it, but the title, "The Human Pork Chop," and "There is a secret in my soup." Haha, okay, haha, okay. I did not like this story. I just had a voice crack. I'm going through puberty. I have delayed this for a while because I don't like to say these things. I hit my mic again. I'm sorry. I have delayed this for a while because I don't like to say these sorts of things, especially when I know my parents can probably hear me. I'm sorry if you have a Hello Kitty in your room. I'm sorry if you have nightmares. I'm sorry for everything in general. Alright. So if you like this sort of content, let me know. I'll make more. Alright. Thanks for watching. Have a good day or night, and goodbye. Hold on. Before they so now with Fan being a and once you what seems like a happy fair tale. Yeah, fair tale. She took her song. Her song. To support her job, she managed to get to support her child. To support her job? I just realized what I just said, huh? You took a dead body in the fire. You just think that's normal. You try to convince the clown that it's normal. 27 to afford her dick. To afford her dick.